let me invite Mr. John O'Connor, Group CEO, ARC Holdings, South Africa. I see a lot of South Africans today, so I'm so happy to introduce each one of them. And the topic, I think, is absolutely amazing. The design and development of a jobs-focused and demand-led National Skills and Employment Institute in South Africa. I think this is something which we would all like to know more about. Over to you, Mr. John. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm just trying to load my presentation.
So, Mr. John, while you are uploading your presentation, you are in Joburg or in Cape Town?
I'm actually in Pretoria.
Oh, lovely. So you're in the capital city. So you are guiding us through this conversation today.
Yeah, so whilst I'm loading the presentation, I want to make a few opening comments, and I'm also really thankful for the fact that I've been invited. And thanks, Rakesh, for moderating this session, and to GenuineIN for inviting me to this, to be part of this august audience. I've thoroughly enjoyed the entire day so far of all of these very knowledgeable people that have shared their views. Can you see the presentation?
Yes, we can see this. We can put it on a full screen mode, possibly.
Okay, so I'll just, there we go.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so most of the African speakers have been kind of covering the problem statement as far as we are concerned. I do think in South Africa, because of the fact that South Africa is such a multicultural and diverse society, it could be slightly better than many of the other African states, in the fact that we do sit with the biggest Gini coefficient in the world, and that we do have a slightly different problem here, where the economy of the country is by and large, more than 80% of the economy is by and large still in the hands of white South Africans. I also do want to make a point about 1994 and the sins of 1994, which was the end of apartheid in South Africa. But because of the devastation of apartheid in South Africa, when our new government came into power, we kind of sometimes threw out the baby with the bathwater. And that baby that we threw out with the bathwater is the fact that we sit with a very, very high unemployment rate. We have 16 million of our 60 million South Africans that are unemployed. And of that unemployed figure, we have 1.1 million people that are graduates that are sitting at home and that are unemployed, which means that we also have another problem, is that young people are given the opportunity to go to university, but then there are no jobs in the economy, or at least there's a mismatch between what they should be doing, what they should be studying, and what the available jobs are in the economy. So another point that I just wanted to make is the fact that South Africa is also awash with developmental funding. The first one is that 1% of the leviable payroll is deducted from all companies in South Africa, as well as from state-owned enterprises. And that money is distributed between what the previous speaker said, the sector education training authorities, and at least just over 60% of that money is distributed. That's that 1%. And those training authorities then have to skill people up that are unemployed, and people that are in workplaces, to skill them up or reskill them. And then about 40% of that funding goes into the National Skills Fund, and we have billions of that money sitting there. We also have a legislative and a regulation around Black economic empowerment, where 6% of the leviable payroll of all of the companies in South Africa has to be spent on Black economic empowerment. 2.5% of that 6% is for skills and bursaries for Black people, not necessarily only for the employees of those companies. And that monetary value of that 2.5% is 114 billion South African rands per annum. And less than 30% of that money is actually spent on education. So there we have lots of money, lots of people that are unemployed, and there is a skills mismatch, and universities and our technical training colleges are training our people on the wrong things. Also, a lot of money from Treasury is made available. Almost every year, our president announces at the State of the Nation address, he announces some new stimulus for youth and employment, and yet we haven't broken the back of this particular kind of a thing. And about exactly a year ago, we were called by government is to say, can you come and lead something else? So the first thing that we then said to them at the time is to say that if you look at all of these institutions, we also happen to have, for those who do not know, University of South Africa. It's got just under 500,000 students, and is the largest mega university in the Southern African continent, if not one of the largest mega universities in the world. And so we're not short of institutions as well. However, one of the points that we made was that those institutions are actually those institutions were designed for school leavers and for postgraduates. They were not designed for people that find themselves in what we call the needs, people not in education, not in education, employment, and training. They were not designed for those, and therefore you need a new institutional form, and that's really what I wanted to kind of concentrate my conversation on, is to say that if we talk about a new institutional form, then what does it mean? And I'll quickly just go to a slide as to say that here is really the skills gap on because on the one side that we are so supply led in terms of education provisioning. So we churn out degrees and we churn out certificates and we churn out diplomas, irrespective of what the requirements, and everybody has been saying that. And therefore, in this diagram, we would really want to show is that we have to look at the demand side and say, what are the demand indicators, and actually take that demand indicator seriously. And to the extent that I'm almost controversial in a way to say, stop the curriculum and stop the accredited qualifications that you're busy with, because it's not actually helping us solve this problem, and go and really ask where these jobs are being created, to ask those people is to say, what kind of a person are you actually looking for? So therefore, you see at the bottom there, we have the unemployed and dependents. And then at the top, you have regulators, you have government, and your skills and jobs funders. And but in the middle sits the opportunity gap. And that's kind of an opportunity gap that we wanted to explore. However, South Africa is very, very regulated when it comes to education and training, with various kinds of bodies. We have the South African Qualifications Authority, and under the South African Qualifications Authority as a main framework, we have 3 sub-frameworks, one for schools, which is called a Malusi, and one for vocational and technical skills, and that's what's called the Quality Council for Trades and Occupations. And the third one is the Council for Higher Education for our universities. And if you are going to access any kind of funding in South Africa, you have to comply with the law. Our national treasury is really very strict when it comes to that, and we had to find a way that we can comply with the law but not churn out the type of qualifications and certificate programs that is not really solving the problem for us. And therefore what we had done is to say that, oh yeah, something. It is called the occupational organizational framework for occupations. And some of you will know that it's really organizational framework that was designed and created by the International Labour Organization, and it was then taken by the Quality Council for Trades and Occupations South Africa and adopted and kind of customized for South African situation. So therefore, with that in mind, we then said that that's really going to be our flag bearer in terms of not falling foul of regulation, is to say that in this new institutional form, we will use the OFO codes. And those OFO codes, if you look at those little round kind of round little circles at the top, it kind of starts with managers and professional and technicians and associate professionals at the kind of the higher, more complex kind of jobs. And then on the lower end, you see the plant and machine operators and skilled agricultural, fishery and craft and other related technical and trade people. And therefore, if we start to say that in any value chain or ecosystem, you're going to need managers and professionals and technicians, but you're also going to need general workers and artisans and machine operators. That you have to look at the spectrum of the types of skill that is required in a particular kind of industry, and therefore say that you need all of those particular kind of levels. And therefore it means that this type of institution that I'm talking about, that it must be designed for those that are unemployed, can't be a one size fits all. It therefore has to have various kind of institutional forms, because it has to cater for high complexity skills of managers and professionals and technicians and technologists. But on the other hand, it needs to, they will also need an institutional form to train technical people and machine operators and so on. And that's really what we then did, is to say under one umbrella at the bottom, is to say you probably need on the one side something that almost looks like a university and a business school and a polytech, but on the other side you need to look at something that looks like a original equipment manufacturing kind of academy and a technical and vocational college. And then that's essentially how we've kind of constructed this particular kind of model, and therefore we needed to give it a name, and we knew that the two words that we bandied about in the world, you get mode 1 and mode 2 institutions, and we then coined the phrase, is to say, for the first time we're going to launch this thing that we are calling the South African National Service Institute, and we're going to launch it on the back of a new term, which we call a mode 3 institutional form, with multiple tiers in that particular institutional form. And then we also recognize, like everybody has said, that in order for us to be able to almost scale this kind of things, we had to think about physically scaling it and also digitally scaling it, because a lot of the jobs that are required in the economy is jobs that require hand skills, and therefore a large proportion of the time, the training time, is actually physical, as people have to be in a physical center. And one of the things that we grappled with is to say the one thing that we do not want to do is to go and put bricks and mortar back into the ground. And what we then did is to go and look at some of the countries that have successfully done it, is to then start a platooning system when the universities and our polytechs are running empty in the afternoon, and our public technical and vocational colleges are running empty in the afternoon, we can platoon our unemployed into those and use those facilities, and in that way kind of scale this kind of a thing. The danger of that type of scaling is that you could suffer a quality issue in terms of learning delivery, and therefore we had to then almost have a licensing and a standardization model. In South Africa, if you say you're franchising education, it's a very big swear word, but effectively it is about having a franchising model and how you effervesce this particular kind of a thing over the country, and by doing so, you then need the technology to be able to manage that talent and to know where that talent is in relation to their pathway or learning journey, and also in relation to when they are going to be ready to step out of that learning journey and be gainfully deployed into an in-service position of employment. And we then went to India, and luckily for GenuineIN, they assisted us with their talent management and jobs platform. So just it's just a sense of the streams, because our Council for Scientific and Industrial Research then said these are the streams that will create jobs that according to their research, where there's going to be a high uptake of jobs, and those streams are maritime and the oceans economy, critical infrastructure, the agriculture, food and food value chain industries, digital technologies, defense and security, and then community-oriented programs. So the other thing, of course, is that if we sit with so many people, is that you can't then physically try to place them into jobs, and therefore we needed to create a digital jobs marketplace where you can have collaboration between the educators, the employers, the learners, and the funders that collaborate in a particular kind of an ecosystem. And that is really what we are busy with now, is to be able to populate that particular kind of a marketplace from industry to industry, and it's quite a laborious exercise to be able to do that. Probably in a year's time from now, I can tell you what the success rate is going to be of that. This particular program was launched on the 21st of May by the Deputy President of the country. So we are in the kind of really baby stages of kind of the proof of concept of rolling this particular thing out. I suspect that's about the time that I've had. I really want to thank you sincerely for the opportunity to share this with you, and good luck for the rest of the conference for those speakers that's still going to come up, and congratulations to the other speakers for really fantastic contribution that they've made. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. I mean, too much loaded, a lot of information, and I know for sure, because I also say that, I'm part of the whole system now in terms of understanding where we are going. The beauty is that in South Africa, we know what the challenges are. We know what the problems are, right? We even have solutions which are there not only in the constitution, but within the framework of public-private partnership, right? Whether you look at the university system we have, whether you look at the Tibet colleges we have, or we look at the school system. So there's one side which is so loaded with a lot of wisdom, knowledge, innovation. And on the other side, there is one area, whether it's a school sector or for that matter, the universities. I mean, within university, the amount of disparity we have between Mangosuthu University and possibly University of Wits, the disparity is very, very huge. So I'm so glad that, you guys you're doing this kind of an intervention which is being implemented. Before I let you go, John, I'd like to pick up your mind on what do you think in your mind is going to be the future of talent management in South Africa? How do you see? We are at 34% unemployment rate today, highest in Africa, right? Highest in Africa, and possibly maybe highest in the world, I guess, right? But how do you see next 5 years in terms of how you're doing a lot of initiatives? There is this whole new stimulus which was announced by President recently, how do you see talent information or management in next 3 years for South Africa? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for that. The first thing that I think is that we need to create a kind of, I mean, we need to kind of be innovative around how jobs are being created. And we actually busy with a few of those projects at the moment. And I didn't know, I picked up the other day a book that was written about by Tito Mboweni, who was our previous Minister of Finance. His speech writer, and he said how to fix South Africa. And I didn't know that this Nobel laureate from Jamaica, an economist, that had kind of written about what he calls these informal kind of jobs, because it's up to that point the Nobel laureates in economy came from traditionally what the developed world or the first world is, and those types of economic modeling simply doesn't work for developing countries. And therefore, it's interesting that we have had vestiges of that type of jobs that are being created. So one of those is actually done now by the water sector, and Umgeni Water has been trailblazing in that front. He said they're calling it first line of response unit, because most of the municipalities around the country loses 50% of their water through leaks, because from where water is pumped from pump stations and from reservoirs to homes and factories and businesses, half of that water gets lost, and it's billions of rands that is going into the ground. And they have started, and where's the water loss? Effectively through leaking taps, cisterns in toilets, and here and there a few pipes that are broken. And to get young people deployed with really very basic plumbing skills to be able to go and fix that kind of a thing, reclaim that water, resell it to the households and so on, and actually pay those people to be able to do that kind of a job. So therefore, on the one side, we have to create those types of jobs. But in order to create those types of jobs, the talent management has to be the fact that what Dr. Stella said earlier on, if we are going to have the digital divide where young people do not have access to devices and data that are cheaper than they are at the moment, so that they can participate in this Uberized kind of world, they are going to be lost again, because we have to find a way to reach young people, and using digital technologies to, first of all, reach them, let them come and participate in that marketplace ecosystem, and therefore make them aware of the type of opportunities that are available, and through that upskill them and offer them particular kind of opportunities, but then track them where they are, and build the artificial intelligence behind that, so that we can start to see and start to measure those types of trends, and from there we can plan better around the trends that will be emerging from what we see. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Again, I mean, we would love to take you offline and have more conversation, because I think it seems that, our minds are matching, and, our thought process is in the same line. But thank you so very much for sharing your insights to the group. Thank you very much, John.
Yes, thank you very much. And we should definitely get together. I heard that you say that you're in Sandton.
I'm in Sandton, you're in Pretoria, Waterkloof. So I'll be there soon, whenever you invite me. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.